The Constellation Taurus is the newest variant of the Constellation series of ships and earns the classification of a medium freight ship since it's able to carry 174 SCU of cargo. However, they haven't really removed too much firepower compared to the Andromeda, which is the gunship variant. Critically, the Taurus still has the same pilot-controlled DPS, shields, and agility as the Andromeda, and it's even cheaper than it. So naturally, we have to go slap some bad guys. Let's get into it. I did an earlier video showing just how well the Andromeda does against bounties, and even easily came out ahead as a solo pilot against 3 Hurricanes on a low population server. I didn't get nearly as good of a challenge in my string of bounties with the Taurus, but I hope you'll believe me when I say that this thing is every bit as capable as the Andromeda. Here we're starting against a VHRT target, the Anvil Valkyrie. I entered this engagement really poorly because I was flying towards him too quickly and I wasn't able to slow down in time to give myself enough time on target to take him out in one pass. We've got laser cannons equipped and our capacitor to max weapons, so if we can line him up, we're going to absolutely demolish him, which is what should be happening right here. Yep. With slow ships like this, a large part of it is just about how you plan and enter your engage to try and give yourself the best chance of a clean shot, since you're not very agile to adjust course once combat begins. Here, we're up against a Hurricane, the hardest VHRT target, and this time I do a much better job of engaging correctly for the ship that I'm flying. You'll notice that while I'm in range, I'm slowing down to below my SCM speed and actually start flying backwards to give myself more time with him in front of me. I even strafe sideways to open up the angle and make him easier to track. He doesn't stand a chance against those size 5 cannons. Goodbye, Hurricane. I even tried multiple servers to try and get multiple ships to fight against me at once, but I think they're too afraid of the mighty Connie, so they just sent another single lone Hurricane. It's almost sad to think about how easily we can pop them in the Connie given how much trouble they give us in other ships, but as soon as we line him up, he's dead. I'll show you folks one more fight, again with a Hurricane, but this time we'll at least manage to get 2 of their allies to spawn in as well. You can see from those small white velocity indicator arrows above the target that I'm actually flying backwards to increase the amount of time that I get to keep them in front of me, since I'll have a hard time rotating around and tracking them in a slower ship like the Connie. For the velocity indicator arrows, when they're pointing towards each other, that's the direction your ship is flying in, and when they're pointing away from each other, that's the direction opposite from where your ship is flying. These allies were a bit out of our range, so we apply forward thrust to hunt them down. This Buccaneer can pose an annoying threat if they start buzzing around us, so we want to try and pop them before getting too close. We also want to try and do that with the Gladius Valiant, but they get behind us here, so now we have to do our best to track them with what agility we have. Since he flew past me though, I didn't actually change the direction I was flying in and just flipped around to face him. And now we're flying backwards, and so he's going to fly directly at us to try and close the distance. He gives us a decent shot at him, but he bounced around a bit and so he juked my shots. But you have such a strong capacitor in the Connie that I just keep firing, and since I'm in a one-on-one, I don't need to worry about anybody else. Eventually he flies straight towards me and I line up that shot and blow him up. Now let's do a quick ship tour. Here we've landed on Microtech, and we turn off our engines before getting out to make sure our ship doesn't get blown around by the storm. As we exit the pilot seat, we see the turrets behind us. The top turret has 2 size 2 repeaters by default, and the bottom turret is a utility slot that has a tractor beam. Then we go into the living area. To the left you can see we've got our lovely bathroom shower combo with the toilet recessed away. The main entry airlock is in the ground below us. And then we've got 4 beds which double as escape pods. As we leave the living area, we enter the cargo area, which is where we also have the visible missile racks. There's 2 doors, one on either side, airlocks to the outside, which is really convenient for when you need to EVA in space. We'll close them for now and we keep moving on. This has an extended cargo bay. It's about 10% longer than all the other Connies, and all of that space is pretty much used here in the cargo bay for extra space. Now back here we've got a little room with a bunch of components, and then further behind that we've got a room with some space for shielded cargo that won't be scannable. As we enter back into the cargo bay, we see that we've already loaded our ship up with a Grey Cat rock for mining, because variety is the spice of life, and the Connie is more than capable of shipping around some ground vehicles. You can also fit an Ursa rover in here. Before we lower the ramp and expose ourselves to the cold, we open the inner thought menu and access our ship inventory, which is new for 3.15 with the inventory changes. From there I can grab the helmet that I'd taken off previously for comfort while piloting. Any ship that has an interior that you can walk around inside of will have a pretty generous ship inventory in 3.15, and anything that you store there will persist with your ship while you store it somewhere, and if your ship gets blown up you will lose all of that stuff with the ship. You'd be able to go back to where that ship was destroyed and try and reclaim it, but do that at your own risk. We hop inside the Grey Cat Rock for a quick little Sunday drive in this lovely, beautiful climate, but I'm a terrible driver, so I pretty much immediately almost kill myself, so that's going to be the end of that. Now let's talk about the fit that we were using. The Connie is capable of fitting size 5 fixed weapons. They have a very large DPS increase over size 4 weapons, so they're really important to upsize those. So I would say put on those size 5 cannons, which will give you the much bigger DPS improvement over the repeaters. Since you're putting the cannons on those top hardpoints, I'd say change the size 4 gimbals to cannons as well, so that all your projectile velocities are the same, and it's much easier to aim all of your shots together. Other than that, the other things that I would recommend changing are the shields. You can actually get a little bit more HP and recharge rate by going to a grade A shield now in 3.15, and the civilian one is the cheapest, so that's what I've put on here. You don't need to update the power plants at all because you don't get any benefit out of changing them anymore in 3.15 as long as you get enough power. Coolers you never need to change. The quantum drive that comes on the Taurus by default is really, really slow, so I would highly recommend changing that out to an XL1 or at least some military grade power plant to get some speed out of it. So how do I feel about the Connie Taurus? It's freaking amazing is how I feel. It's extremely versatile for PvE content since it's excellent for VHRT bounties, and you can even do ERT bounties with some careful piloting and power management. I mean, you've got 2 size 2 and 2 size 4 weapons controlled by the pilot, and it's got a really good ammo pool, so things that are in front of you will die. And you've got a nice beefy size 3 shield and a ton of hull HP as well. You've got 2 turrets, so you can also have some, multi-crew fun with this ship as well. You can also take part in the new medical gameplay for 3.15, since the elevators allow you to drag injured players onto them for rescue missions. And you've got a lot of cargo space for a medium-sized ship, more than any other ship in this size class actually. And it's the most that you're going to get before you get into gigantic dedicated haulers like the C2 Hercules and the Caterpillar. And that cargo space also affords you the ability to ship around most ground vehicles, which opens up things like, mining. But it's not without its faults. It's slow and sluggish as you'd expect from a ship this size. The cockpit view is obscured by a bunch of struts, and although they have said that they want to revisit that across the Constellation series, they haven't mentioned when. It's also got gigantic blind spots against attackers, since it only has that one top turret for offensive capabilities, and it's got no snub fighter. So if you're being attacked by other players, your best bet is to leverage your beefy shield and just run, which you can do because you have quite a lot of shield and hull HP. But at the end of the day, there's no other ship out there quite like it, other than the other Connies. In my opinion, this is the best jack of all trades in the game. Thanks for watching, folks. I hope you liked it. Cheers.